John DiLeo, but I think I know every single one of you, so you knew that. What I'm going to do, thank you, John, for having me tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everyone's been so nice, so lovely here. Beautiful store, you know that too. We're here for the latest book of mine called Not Even Nominated, 40 Overlooked Co-Stars of Oscar-Winning Performances. And what I like to do at these, because I like to talk to people and get their opinions and hear what they have to say, I'm only going to read very little. We're going to read not even the whole introduction, just like the first 3 paragraphs, then skip like the next 3 and just finish off with the final 2. And so, it tells you everything you need to know, and it should get the conversation going. And I know some of you are good at asking questions, so you don't even need the prompt. But anyway. Excuse my eye. Okay, I'm set. Competitive awards in the arts are inherently ludicrous. Some might even call them stupid. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, join me in delving into the Oscars for a few hundred pages. Even if you are an award-hating lover of movies, the Oscars are hard to ignore. They have now existed for nearly 100 years, with the Golden Boy statuette globally recognized as the symbol of Hollywood. What the best picks of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences have offered are prominent markers of their moments. The patina of excellence is deemed by industry peers, influenced by whatever factors came into play in any given year. Not just quality, but popularity, sentiment, trends, etc. For those of us not in the Academy, Oscar selections can function as a means to measure our own judgments, whether we passionately defend certain choices or vehemently disparage them as conspicuously misguided, all in the name of defining and refining our individual responses to movies. For those so inclined, reacting strongly to Oscar's choices is the primary fun of the Academy Awards. In my previous books, I have embraced any fleeting opportunity to applaud or bash an Oscar pick. But this time I am putting Oscar front and center just the way he likes it. I won't be revealing my personal choices year by year, instead focusing on only 40 movies, each containing an Oscar-winning performance and an equally good or better performance that didn't even rate a nomination. 40 winners, 40 omissions, side by side. I begin with the first year of the Academy Awards, then steadily make my way toward and into the 21st century, placing the limelight on those who worked alongside Oscar-winning performances, yet for a myriad of reasons were somehow not regarded as sufficiently award caliber themselves. Among the 40 not even nominated performances, there are 2 that I recall most pronouncedly as being the inspirations for this book. Captain's Courageous, 1937, may have won Spencer Tracy his first Best Actor Oscar, but for anyone who has seen and loved this movie, it's blatantly apparent that youngster Freddie Bartholomew, in the film's central role, is the key to the film's emotionally overwhelming impact. Bartholomew is the film's Best Actor, yet there was no nomination, not even a special juvenile Oscar. Elmer Gantry, 1960, deservedly nabbed Burt Lancaster a Best Actor Oscar for his fire-breathing magnetism in the title role, yet co-star Gene Simmons is every bit as stunning, and in a role more demanding and complex than Lancaster's. Inexplicably, Simmons was not nominated as Best Actress. And so, I celebrate the achievements of Bartholomew, Simmons, and 38 other performers who often immeasurably contributed to someone else's Oscar win, while their own first-rate characterizations were destined to be taken for granted. It's sometimes true that this particular type of unappreciation derives from the random bad luck of being in contention in a highly competitive year. Perhaps someone said as much to Cary Grant when James Stewart won his Best Actor for The Philadelphia Story, while Grant, Stewart's just as marvelous co-star, didn't place among the top 5. Now I'll jump toward the end. In quite a few examples, the showier part was the one to win the award, while the subtler, less is more performance was neglected. About a quarter of my main subjects did win Oscars, just not for the films discussed here. Many of those not even nominated operate as their film's stabilizing force, the glue holding the picture together. sometimes even its protagonist. Often they warranted not just a nomination, but the award itself. If nothing else, they are rewarded with the belated prize of a chapter in this book. Taken together, they form an eclectic group, from forgotten stars to enduring legends, revered character actors to the perennially underrated. Winning an Oscar puts your name in the record books and provides the first line of your obituary. But Oscar gold can also tarnish with age. However, the 40 performances profiled here, devoid of gold-plated validation, retain their sheen on time-tested merit alone. Thank you. Thank you. So before I open it up, I'll just run down some of the people in the table of contents, who the 40 people are. As I said, it starts in 1927 and it goes to 2015. So you've got people like Myrna Loy in The Best Years of Our Lives, Humphrey Bogart in The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Gregory Peck in Roman Holiday, Maggie Smith in The VIPs, Sidney Poitier in The Heat of the Night, Mia Farrow in Rosemary's Baby. So again, somebody in those movies won an Oscar for that movie, while these people were not nominated. So that's the gist of it. Michael York in Cabaret, Tommy Lee Jones in Coal Miner's Daughter, Donald Sutherland in Ordinary People, Nicolas Cage in Moonstruck, Jeff Bridges in The Fisher King, Glenn Close in Reversal of Fortune, Samuel L. Jackson in Django Unchained, and the last one is Tom Hanks in Bridge of Spies from 2015. So, I'm all yours. And Michael. Okay.
The year Donald Sutherland didn't get nominated, who won?
The year Donald Sutherland didn't get nominated for Ordinary People, Robert De Niro won for Raging Bull. And he was the favorite. He probably would have won anyway, but it still seems kind of weird that Donald Sutherland wasn't nominated, because the movie won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay. Everybody else was nominated: Mary Tyler Moore, Judd Hirsch, and Timothy Hutton won as Best Supporting Actor, even though he too, like Donald Sutherland, had a leading role. But there's no excuse. That's a really, in some of the cases I can sort of figure out why things went down the way they did. That one is just a head scratcher. There's no explanation, because even though Mary Tyler Moore got a lot of the attention for breaking her image by being cold and, we couldn't believe Mary Richards could behave that way. It was brilliant casting, because she was so good. She got a lot of the attention, but in a way, Donald Sutherland's casting was just as bizarre, because he had played so many oddballs throughout the 70s, scary guys, wackos, whatever you want to call them. They weren't a normal upper middle class husband, father, lawyer, and so it was just as kind of a surprise to see him, but it was a less showy part. But he's great in it, and the more you watch that movie, which I'm now, having written about it, extremely familiar with it again, you realize it's his story. We think we're following the story of the boy, but that's just one component of getting to the fact that this man has to figure out about his marriage is not the marriage he's been telling himself that it is. And so he has to come to terms with that, and the boy is the catalyst for that. Because the boy's story resolves, but the film keeps going, because we haven't dealt with the big issue, the marriage. What's your second question, Michael?
Well, so I'm going to channel the person that's not here, still Milford. Can you read Dedication?
Oh, God.
He would have asked that.
That's funny. My partner, who did, because the subtitle has Costars in the words there, for Michael White, my co-star. So yes, thank you. He'll appreciate that, Michael. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes.
Wendy.
So, by writing this book, John, do you feel that like you've just vindicated the fact that they were overlooked? And is it a commentary on the fact that a lot of us feel the Oscars are bullshit?
Right.
And we've had all of these, we've got the Golden Globes, we seem to every year get more and more things. So at the end of the day, does this like just allow you to feel you know, like you're a lawyer and you went to trial and you won the case?
Do I feel I'm vindicated myself? I guess all these people in the book, right? Yeah. It's a great pleasure to, like, I agree with you, awards, as I said at the beginning, they're silly. They're fun to talk about because they help us figure out what we think of, like, oh, if that won that, but I didn't like that, so why didn't I like that? They're great conversation starters if you care about the arts, whatever, if you're talking about the theater or whatever, opera. I think in terms of, not necessarily vindication, but I love being able to shine a light where I don't think there's been a light, and so it's very satisfying, especially some of the ones earlier in the book who are forgotten people, Chester Morris, Charles Farrell, the people at the beginning. You feel like, I bet I'm the only person right now writing a chapter about this guy, and if it turns someone on to see a movie, then you feel like you're doing something. I just had a wonderful experience in California. One of my subjects is Joel McCrea. If you've ever read anything of mine, you know he's my favorite movie actor. I don't think he's the greatest, but he's my favorite. So I've gotten now friendly with his grandson, and it's Joel McCrea's been dead a long time, but I can feel Wyatt's appreciation that someone is out there writing a lot about his grandfather, and so it's almost like being an honorary member of the family, and I don't know, it pleases me, but like you said, it's sort of like you feel like in your tiny way, and for people who care, you are doing something. So, thank you. Greg.
Just to follow up a little on the question before, in your research, did you find that there were like maybe some political things that were going on at the time that maybe was the reason why a nomination wasn't given?
I don't think there were any specific examples that was political. I think sometimes I think there really is a number 6, and that it wasn't really intentional. It wasn't really a snub. It's like you came in 6th, and it looks like they snubbed you, but somebody has to come in 6th. There are, like I said, factors of, I think often it's about people who make it look too easy, like Cary Grant in the Philadelphia Story example. The two guys are both great, and so is one guy an Oscar winner because he has a long drunk scene, and the other one has mostly wisecracks, and so is one funnier than the other? Not necessarily. There are certainly examples of, I don't even know if you call it politics, but you call it other factors, like Elizabeth Taylor winning after almost dying and surviving, and everyone wanted to show how much they loved her, and that's the year Gene Simmons wasn't nominated. So you have this spectacular performance that's award-worthy. I don't know enough, maybe Gene Simmons wasn't a party goer, enough of it, because I think a lot of it is that, and that is politics. A lot of being seen. Now it's even much worse. They have to go to every single award show, whether you want to or not, because you have to be seen. You have to present, so people say, oh, I liked his speech, or whatever, he's charming, I'm voting for him. So there were those sort of sentimental factors or political factors, yeah. Bob.
John, a little bit off base here. How long did you spend making the book? And also, you have a lot of photographs. I'm curious to know how you collected all the photographs, because I'm going through it myself, and it's been a really tough thing with all the lawyers. I guess I'm seeking a little help.
So first, how long did it take to write it?
Yeah.
It took a year, like almost to the day, like in November 1st to November 1st of last year to the year before. And I think it took roughly about a week to do each piece. And you go back and back and back, but I mean, to do a first draft that you're fairly satisfied with for a couple of months, and then you go back to it. Photographs were fun in this case because I tried as hard as I could to have pictures with both the winner and the not nominated person in the same shot. Of course, sometimes they never appear together in this, like in an ensemble movie like the VIPs. Margaret Rutherford won, but she's never in the plot strand that Maggie Smith is in. So we have 2 pictures in those cases. I always go, there's certain places that license the pictures. I've been going to Photo Fest since my first book 25 years ago. They've done all the pictures for us, so they have the rights to license to you to include it, and you credit them and you're good to go.
Thanks. Were there people who actually got cut by you as well? I was thinking that would be the ultimate.
Did I cut people?
Because I mean, at the end of the year, I was wondering if there were too many people.
Who was your 41?
I do get that question. Who was my 41? There really wasn't, because I've told this story too. When I was in the middle of the book, most of my books have a number in the subtitle. I was in the middle and I wasn't sure what the number was going to be, so I met with my publisher and I said, I'm not sure what the number is. Is it okay if it's like a weird number, like 43, or do you want it to be 40, 50, whatever? And she said, I don't care, do whatever you want. If it's 43, it's 43. And then I ended up doing 40, but I don't think there really was a 41. Because I had access, I had permission to include it, and I didn't. And I thought, I was mostly concerned toward the last few that it was evenly spaced throughout the decades, so there wasn't like a 15-year gap in the middle of the book. And so that didn't happen, so that was okay. One interesting thing in terms of inclusion and not inclusion was changing your mind about who the person was in the movie you chose to write about. What I mean is, I knew Mary Poppins would probably be in the book. Julie Andrews, of course, won, and I thought Dick Van Dyke wasn't nominated. Who doesn't love Dick Van Dyke? I do. He does everything. He's one of the greats. And I'm watching the movie again, and I'm thinking, I still love it. I was 3 years old, like some other people here were. I'm looking at faces, 3 years old. Loved it. But when you watch it as an adult, you realize, oh, it's a story about the father. It's a story about this man learning to be a husband and father and pay attention to his life and not be so over-regimented and care nothing for anything except being on time and what's going on at the bank. So Mary Poppins comes not really for the kids. The kids are the kind of what gets her there, but she's there to open him up to everything. So I ended up writing about David Tomlinson, who plays Mr. Banks, and it's a movie about him. He has the biggest arc in that he goes from A to Z. Nobody else in that movie really changes much at all. That's okay, they're not supposed to. It's his journey, as we call it. And so, as much as I love Dick Van Dyke, I realized you could take him out of this and it doesn't change the story at all. So I thought David Tomlinson was the one who should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. So that was fun. I think that might have happened one other time, but that one really stuck out because I knew the movie so well, and I surprised myself. Like, oh, okay, you're out, Dick. As you said, you're out, Dick Van Dyke. Yeah. Anybody else? Tom.
Sorry, this is about you. I'm just wondering, because I know there's a lot of pictures, but there's a lot of words there, and I was just wondering, you said a week, but do you have like a routine? Are you like Frasier? You got to, start your day easy, or you have to write when there's light out?
Do I have a writing routine? Yes, I do. Well, in a general sense, I like to do everything I have to do in a day that has nothing to do with writing in the morning, so that I have nothing in my head that I'm like, oh, I need to make those calls, but now I'm working. So I do all that, whatever, exercise, errands, everything. And I usually write between lunch and dinner. That's my time. And it may sound a little pretentious, but I always say each book teaches you how to write it. And what I mean is when you do the first couple of chapters, you're kind of figuring it out, but you're not really sure how long each one will take or how much will be included, or will they all have the same similar outline? Will they all kind of outline the same way? And it takes a couple to sort of establish that. That's why I never write. That's why I never write them in the order, the chapters in the order in which they appear, because I don't want it to be obvious if I'm changing how I'm doing it while you're reading it. So I'll usually start with something in the middle and jump around and then assemble it in the order later. And then even I can't tell which ones came when. So once you get in a groove, then if I start a piece on a Monday, I know exactly what I'll be doing on Thursday. Not what the words are, what I'll be, but I mean, I know where in the process I'll be on Thursday, and then I'll wrap it up on whatever, Saturday morning, put it away and start the next one. And so I'm conscious of, and again, it's not so like regimented where it's not organic. It still feels like it's fun and flowing, but it just takes on that kind of life where I kind of know where I am and this is how I'm doing it, and then it just stays that way till I'm done. Was that clear?
Yeah, you don't have to take a nap in the afternoon.
I don't have to take a nap. Thank you. Not yet. That's coming. That's coming. But then I don't go back to it after dinner ever. You know, I'll make notes to myself. Sometimes someone asked me this and I thought, that was a good question. I can't actually remember what the question was. I remember my brilliant answer. It was, sometimes I'll talk out loud by myself when I'm writing something, and I'll think, if this is sounding too written, and I'll just say, well, what do I think of this before? And I'll just talk like I'm on the phone with you, say. And sometimes the best stuff comes out when you're just being yourself, yakking, spewing your opinions, and then a lot of that stuff makes it in. So I like doing that.
Amazing.
Great.
So do you, in the middle of the night, if you wake up at 4 in the morning and thoughts are coming to your head, do you pull out the pen and paper and jot those ideas down?
Do I have pen and paper in the middle of the night so I can jot down? I don't, but I actually, sometimes if things are on my mind, like whatever I'm working on, I get that like last half hour before I wake up where I'm half and half, and you usually get some good ideas, so like right out of bed to write something down. But not in the middle of the night, but I'm saying there's that, I don't know, we must be in a certain kind of state when we're almost awake and things fall into place. So yes, I have thought of things. Yeah. Rick?
How much do you think money has to do with these decisions? Like pressure from the studios, like trying to push their own biggest stars?
Yeah, I think money has a lot to do with, putting you over the finish line and getting into the top 5. And someone, like I'd mentioned, Joel McCrea, was someone who did not play the Hollywood game at all. He finished work and went to his ranch and came back the next day, didn't go to parties. And so you're not out kissing babies or whatever you have to do. So I think money does come into play. And in the old days, the studios would tell people who to vote for, because this movie is hurting. If so-and-so could just win, maybe we could turn a profit on this thing. The other thing is doing great, doesn't need any awards, just skip it. So that kind of thing, yeah. That was prevalent in like the 30s of this is what or even in they often have said, why did Judy Garland lose for A Star Is Born? Because it was for Warner Brothers and she wasn't under contract there. They didn't really invest in her aside from that one movie. Whereas Grace Kelly's movie was at Paramount, and she was under contract to MGM, so she had the push of 2 studios, and she was in 3 big movies that year. So there's just a lot more people pulling for you. Again, none of it had to do with who was better. So yeah, that definitely comes into play. Anybody else?
What about the concept that they realized late that, we should have honored this filmmaker or this actor, and it's like, instead of giving them the award when they really deserved it, they give it later. Yeah.
Well, that does happen. It used to happen more often than it does now. They don't seem to be very sentimental anymore. They're fine picking someone no one knows and we'll never see again, and that's fine. They don't care. That didn't happen so much. One example, kind of what you're asking, is when John Wayne won for True Grit, which is in the book. And he's very good. He's delightful, mocking himself. but I include Kim Darby. That's another case of, it's her movie. It's a story about a girl seeking revenge on the man who murdered her father. He's just really the guy she hires, but it's her story. She drives the whole thing, and she's terrific. She's terrifying, because, you know, nothing can stop that teenage girl from getting what she's after, revenge. And that was the year of Midnight Cowboy, the two guys against each other, and Richard Burton and Peter O'Toole, both of whom would never win. So you have those four guys and John Wayne slipping through, and he's totally delightful, but that was one of those cases of, it was a body of work award, you know, that kind of thing. Mark.
So, do you think in the olden days, do you think it was less easy to predict than now?
Yes. Was it easier to predict who would win now? It was harder to predict in the old days. Yes, because we didn't have 27 awards ahead of time telling us who the favorites are, and then you watch Oscar night and it's just a foregone conclusion. You watch everyone who you've seen give a speech 3 or 4 times go up, and you think, this is so boring. But I think, yeah, there was much more of a, certainly in the early days when it went to television, you could watch the show. Nobody in mainstream America was aware of a Golden Globe being presented a few weeks earlier. We didn't, even in the 70s, it wasn't even on it was on Channel 11, I think, on Long Island in the 70s. It was like, what is this? The Golden Globes? Nobody cared. They hardly ever went to it either, because now they go to everything, because everything is before the Oscars. If you had the Oscars first and all those awards after, no one would go to a single one of those shows. Anyway, but so I'm saying for the audience, it was very hard to know who was going to win, because there was not enough. It's been since June, every time I open my phone, the 5 nominees for Best Actor are going to be, I mean, there are too many people working on this. Like, I guess I'm not really part of that, but I'm in that world. It's just crazy. It's just killing it by sort of beating a dead horse. Social media has, and they keep making it earlier. They keep trying everything, but everybody reacts to whatever they do, so that everybody else goes earlier. And I don't know. The Critics Awards started yesterday and today, and by the Golden Globes, we'll probably know who the 4 people are going to win in March. And it's taken a lot of the fun out of it. But right, in the 70s when we watched it, we didn't really, you'd have a sense of what the big movie was, whether it's The Godfather or whatever, or Cuckoo's Nest, but still there was that excitement of, would they go sentimental? Would Fred Astaire beat Robert De Niro? That was a funny one, but that was true. It didn't happen. Anybody else? James.
Please refresh my memory because it's really gone.
Yeah.
And I have all your books, and I want to know that this image that I just thought of, if it was in the new one, which I just bought and was looking through, or an old one.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman both holding the same Oscar.
Oh, I think it's this one. It's the introduction.
So the Gray Man is in this one?
Yeah, it's in the...
That's right, so now, let's say, I think he should have been nominated. I think he should have won supporting Cruise, and that's my opinion. Let's say he did win.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have changed the trajectory of his career and he would be doing less action films and more drama or comedy drama films?
I think there was that time with Tom Cruise, where I asked about Tom Cruise if he'd won the Oscar for Rain Man. There was that time in his career where he was definitely trying to win an Oscar. You could see that every movie was sort of geared, and then he stopped. And it's been 20 years since he's made a movie that he could be nominated for an Oscar, something like that. And he just decided, whatever, that's not going to happen. I'll hold out for a special one in my 80s. But the thing with Rain Man, it's another example of Rain Man is the story of the Tom Cruise character. Hoffman's the catalyst for this kind of slick, selfish, jerk, finding his humanity, finding he can feel love for a relative. He's sensitive and sympathetic, and he's a completely different person at the end of the movie. Dustin Hoffman's character is incapable of really that kind of change. He had the showy part, so it would have been really crazy to put Cruise in the supporting category because he's the star of the movie. He's in every scene. He never stops talking. If anything, it would have been the other way, but that would have been that's not going to happen. You're not going to put Dustin Hoffman in the supporting category in 1988. But yeah, I think Cruise at some point, whatever, he just thought, hey, I can't have everything. So, everybody else? All right, I guess we'll see if anybody wants to buy a book.
No other question? Oh, question?
Oh, was there another question?
No, it was a book.
Tom was just excited at the prospect of seeing the book. So, John, tell us what should people
Okay,
do?
we're good? Really good? No more questions? Thank
Thank
you,
you.
John DiLeo, then.
Thank you.